said, oh, someday we're going to live off the grid. And we smiled. I said, we are off the grid. We don't have a mortgage. We don't have utilities. We don't have an HOA payment. We live off the grid now.
My guest, Jerry Campagna, and his wife, Dr. Phyllis Campagna, have been able to continue their professional work, even though they are moving across the country to sit other people's homes. They are house sitters.
You are watching Profunda TV with host Phyllis Haynes.
What if I told you that you could say goodbye to your rent and mortgage payments forever? Meet Jerry and Phyllis Campagna, part of a growing trend of couples ditching traditional mortgages in favor of house sitting. Instead of shelling out for rent or a mortgage, they live in various locations without the financial burden. In exchange, they care for the property and pets while the homeowners are away. This lifestyle offers flexibility, adventure, and significant cost savings. They get to explore new cities, meet new people, and experience different cultures, all while saving tons of money. But it also comes with challenges: the uncertainty of where you'll live next, the responsibility of taking care of someone else's home, and the occasional homesickness. Still, Jerry believes the pros outweigh the cons. We've never felt so free and connected, he says. So, would you take the plunge into this unconventional lifestyle?
So, Jerry, tell me about the life you've chosen. I've had the privilege of interviewing you years ago, but what's different about you? Tell me about this life you've selected.
Well, that is a question that Phyllis and I are asked, my Phyllis, are asked very often. And it started with COVID. So when COVID struck, as we know, the whole world shut down, and including the coaching conference that we all used to go to, right? And so it was done virtually, and we always traveled to the conferences by car because that was our way to kind of do walkabout and see the country. Well, obviously with COVID, and then everybody's going to be on a Zoom call, we reached out to some friends and asked, could we do our Zoom call from your house, because they were in California and their house was here. And so it created kind of a mini cocoon that still took us out of our world and into a different place. And during that process, as everybody was sharing how much things were changing actively, we had an aha moment when we were sitting on the patio one of those evenings, and it came to saying, why are we here in one place? We're now talking to all our clients on a Zoom calls all over the country. For me, it was more traumatic. The work I do is organizational development, as in a room, working the energy with teams and process. Phyllis, who's a doctorate level business coach, her business instantly went to Zoom. People wanted to talk right away. What am I going to do? How am I going to run my business? For me, all my clients, they just shut down. You couldn't bring people into a room, and nobody at that point had figured out, well, you could do this online. And so for me, I spent the next 3 months retooling everything I did, which was in a room, to how do I now activate this process online? And what I started to look at from a psychological standpoint and what was happening when you were presenting in a room is I developed kits that I would mail potential clients for a workshop so that they were still tactile. You opened up packages, you lit a candle, you had some snacks to eat. You engaged all the senses in the same way that I would have done if we would have been in a room. I also learned, do not have more than 8 people, because you can't visually see everybody if you have more than 8. So I do that now as a standing rule. I won't work online unless we can break these larger groups down into working groups of 8 or less. And if I keep it there, I can still see everybody. It still creates some confusion because our eyes are always roaming at who are all the other people instead of making the eye contact, that we need.
Okay, you're getting into the details about how you work. I want to find out more. I want to find out more about your lifestyle.
That's a great question. So that led us to become a word we did not even know at the time called a digital nomad.
Ah.
We had no clue what that word meant. Had to look it up. And yet that is what we became. So we sold our home and over 90% of everything we own. And we discovered an organization because at that point we still didn't know how we're going to find places to stay at when we travel all over. We tried to decide, will we get an RV? We said no, because that's like having another house. So we discovered an organization called trustedhousesitters.com out of the UK, where basically it's a matchmaking organization between sitters and homeowners. And from that, we started the process of beginning to travel all over the country, working remotely, taking care of homes, and usually with a pet, a little cat, a dog, or such. And in the beginning, it was only short sits because we hadn't built our creds yet, so it was a week. It was maybe 2 weeks. Now our normal stay is over a month in homes. So we have the longest stay coming up, which will be 2.5 months in one home while this couple travels around the world. And so what it's also done is created another term for us. We're now temporary locals because we live embedded in a neighborhood, and the homeowners often tell us, where to go eat and let's meet the neighbors. We're not like Airbnb. It's a very different world. We live here. We experience what's happening. Now that COVID's kind of moved to the side, Phyllis's work is still very much online. Mine's now hybrid. So it's like I'll do introduction workshops online, then I'll fly into a city to work with a group in person to get the people dynamics, and then continue breakouts later online. It's also created new terms. We've been doing this now over 2.5 years. So it went from concepts of you're a digital nomad to a modern minimalist, because for us, it's beyond being a nomad now. It's a lifestyle that is, we don't need so many physical things anymore to be happy. We don't need to keep up with the Joneses per se. That's also translated into how I work with clients, because it's like, everybody's like, we have to have all these extra things. No, we don't. Actually, let's bring it to the core. What is your true inner core mission? And then what core strategies are we going to implement to get stuff done now? So it's evolved us personally, it's evolved us professionally by looking at this lifestyle of being digital nomads, minimalists. And the third term, which just came because we do an annual timeout. So we retreat from the world for a number of days and review what happened, what worked, what didn't work. And in this recent one, which just was a couple of weeks ago, we came to another aha as we had future tense to, someday we're going to live off the grid. And we smiled and I said, we are off the grid. We don't have a mortgage. We don't have utilities. We don't have an HOA payment. We live off the grid now. And so present tense, it shifted also as we look at what do you really need going forward? What the future is here. And if we all, I think, live more that way, the future tense is now. Whatever's going to be tomorrow is the basis of what are we doing today, not mañana, right? So I bring that again to clients. So the whole concept in the old days of long-term strategic planning, that's gone. I do 90-day plans with clients and with metrically driven results. What are you going to get done in 3 months? You can say, let's have an overarching goal for 12 months and say, I want to aspire to be there. And you're not going to know what's going to happen past 3 months. And so the old days of strategic planning, and we're going to put that wonderful, plan in a file. It's going to sit there with dust for 6 months. No. So COVID did that for me also, and I think for many clients that became more realistic. We got to be more present tense in our life, in our work, in our interactions.
Well, I can hear my audience asking, did it take courage to sell your house? What did it feel like on the first day when you stepped out?
Scared as hell.
Scared as hell, huh?
Scared as hell. And I mean, we think back about it now because we had made the decision, right? We're going to see our world. And so it was kind of like holding your breath and just say, do it, just jump. I skydived once decades ago with my chiropractor. I think he was doing it to try to make more money. And you get to 10,000 feet, right? And you say, I'm going to go jump out of a plane. And then you say, what are you doing? And then you just have to say, let's go. And you make the giant leap. You jump. And that's what we did with that lifestyle that all of us, most of us, have lived all our lives. We have a home. We have all the security of everything I know. And we said, no, we're gonna let go. We're gonna see what this is like. It was painful. It was painful psychologically. We were separated from friends and family and the gatherings that you would have had getting together on the driveway or somebody's graduation or retirement parties. We weren't part of that anymore. We were traveling, living in homes across the country, yet we were temporary locals. We didn't belong to that place. So it took us probably, I would say, 6 months to a year for us to readjust our whole paradigm. Meaning in the beginning, I need to make sure I bring at least a few of my kitchen knives so that I have what I need when I arrive. Shifted to, no, this is the experience. You landed in a foreign country, although it's still here in the US, use what you have in that environment. So utility became much more present instead of wishful. What could I have or what should I bring? Be present. Here and now is probably the most describable term for this kind of a lifestyle. To truly benefit and gain from it, we need to be here and now every day. We've gotten to a point, though, also, we don't usually share as much about what we're doing because we find that it's scary for others. They're like, well, I couldn't do that. Okay, well, then, how's your day?
Okay, I have to, I know you're saying a lot of things from your perspective, Jerry, but since your wife's not here, I have to ask you something from the female. I have to ask you something from the female perspective. Maybe I'll have to do a sequel interview with her, but what's it like being together all the time?
I can't answer for her. I'll answer from my end about that.
Okay.
So, we've both been entrepreneurs for decades. And so we had home-based offices. So we've been very accustomed, unlike other couples that said, I went to an office and you went to a different office. We were often in the same space, different rooms. So that part of our lives didn't really change much. When we come to another home, first thing we both do is figure out where are we going to set up our mobile office, right? Are you going to be at the kitchen table? Are you going to take a second bedroom? And so that changes every time we go somewhere. Relational wise, we sometimes say, okay, I need a break, so I'm going to go watch my show. She likes to watch the Hallmark Channel. I do not watch Hallmark Channel. So I go downstairs in another room and go watch my, Save the World, action-packed movies, and she's watching Hallmark. Or I'll go for a long walk with one of the critters, a dog or something that we have, and so we create our time that's still separate, yet it's also a very conscious decision that I think people have to think through. You are going to be living with this other person 24/7.
Jerry, I'm totally fascinated. I'm totally fascinated by this because I keep thinking about my parents and what they'd be thinking about this if they were alive. I mean, if I came home and said I was going to do this, I think they'd be terribly shocked.
On that line, so my mother calls me a modern gypsy.
Uh-huh.
So where is my modern gypsy son? Where are you today? So yeah, I think because it challenges the status quo that most of us were brought up in, right? You must have stability, you must be in one place, and you must have all these things.
Yeah, I know this term, but even gypsies today don't want to be people who have formerly been referred to as gypsies don't want to be called that. So it's kind of a negative term. You don't see yourself as homeless?
Houseless. We're houseless.
You're houseless.
Houseless.
Interesting.
Yes, because we have homes. We live in homes all over the country.
Yeah.
And we are stable in those homes, a month to 2 months at a crack. So we're not transient. And we spend very few days on the road, meaning we pack it in so that maybe there's only 1 or 2 days between sits. So, and we are packed through next February already.
My goodness.
With sits, all planned out, knowing exactly where we're going, where we're going to be. So it's not, in the beginning, we didn't know what was going to happen in 2 months. Now we can plan out an entire year and say, I know where we will be on this date.
Wow.
So yeah, it's not, and our last time out, in our last strategic planning session, we even looked at it and said, hey, we're already off the grid, and hell, we could do this another 3, 4, or 5 years and not feel that we're having a ball. I think for me, and I know Phyllis shares this, it is the adventure, the new setting, the new country that we're going to visit, which is a neighborhood somewhere across the United States. It's a very unique lifestyle that you also, if we talk about moving into our elder state of life, you must stay present. You must be present. You are constantly in a new home. You constantly have different equipment and setups.
Okay, let me interrupt you. What is the worst place you've landed?
This is a very good question. And we give this advice to newbies that were thinking about, doing this kind of work. You need to vet deeply what is the environment you're going to move in, the physicality of a home, the norms, the rules of the house rules. And that if you don't make those clear, you're going to show up in a setting and your assumption about what you thought you could do will be turned upside down. So someone might say, well, you can only eat in the kitchen. And like, well, what if I want to have popcorn in a movie? Nope. You have to stay in the kitchen with all food. So that's an example like, whoa, wait a minute. I should have probably talked about that. We also always now, we vet by saying we'd like a tour of the house virtually. Take your laptop. Because sometimes people will post, here's the way the houses look when we were putting it for sale 10 years ago, right? Versus, no. I need to see what is it now. So, vetting and knowing clearly what you're getting into is important. And there have been a few sits in the past where we did not do that. And we learned our lesson like, oh, this is not cool. This is not fun.
Like what? For example, be specific.
One about eating was one of them, where this household said, no, you cannot have a morsel of food outside of the kitchen.
That would be me if I had someone sitting in my house. I would say that, yes.
That's right. And you can't have a drink outside of the kitchen. So how are you going to watch a movie, right? I can't have a drink. I can't have no popcorn. That was tough because in our world, habits, right? Phyllis and I would sit down and watch a movie with popcorn and a libation. That's a normal part of our.
Okay, but let me ask you something else again, perhaps from your wife's perspective. Have all the houses you've landed in been clean?
Cleaning everything. everything. I mean, it's like a hobby for her. So
she's fastidious. Yes.
she's fastidious.
Yes.
She also plays those Scrabble words, games. So she knows all those complicated words. I don't know as many. So she will undoubtedly, I don't think there's only been a few homes where she doesn't, clean the refrigerator. Like take everything out.
Okay.
Clean every shelf. For me, I'm Mr. Outside, she's, Mrs. Inside. So I take care of the lawn. I am meticulous. If it's going to be that I mow, I mean, I have the lines like on a golf course, like, shh, shh. I think because I don't have my own lawn anymore. So for me, it's kind of like, oh, I get to play here. And so
I can't wait to interview her because I'm getting all these man answers from you. And I don't mean to make gender questions. I just wanted to know what it was.
And you
like.
have to set up another interview with my honey.
Yeah, I wanted to know what it was like to land in one of these houses that was different from your expectation. That's really my question.
The biggest thing we keep top of mind always, and it does help. You are visiting a different country.
Even though it's the US. Okay.
When you think of it that way, when you land in a new home, you are encountering a whole different set of cultures, habits, environments that are not what you grew up with or what you would have expected in your home, right? And we have to let go of very quickly the judgment of how this should be, because it isn't. And with that, then you're able to calm down and not be bothered every moment. Like, why isn't the spoons put over here where it's easy for me to get, near the cereal? Right?
Okay, I'm gonna move off this topic. I'm not getting what I'm looking for, but this is good. This is good. So do you plan to ever go to an actual different country? Are you thinking about trying it in a foreign country? So
yes.
What countries are you thinking of?
UK.
Okay.
We want to go to England. And because now our 5-star creds are really up there across the board, 25 5-star ratings, we can easily get sits anywhere in the world if we want to. We don't yet one of our bucket list places to do a sit would be in Salisbury, England, which is a suburb of London, further out. Okay. And it has a cathedral that dates back to the 1200s. Mystically magical place. And to get a sit there in the cathedral close, the area within the walls, those homes, that would be like, be awesome. So yes, we will probably in the next year or two, certainly Canada, we're going to be looking maybe even next year to start doing some sits up in Canada. We both love like the, British Columbia coast and the eastern seaboard up there as well. We like water that way. Toronto, Quebec, Victoria Island.
So what's different about you now that you've done this? We're moving towards the end of our conversation, but I really want to know how you've changed. What's different about Jerry?
I'm much more present. I'm much less judgmental because I'm always moving to a new space, and it's about accepting what you encounter instead of prejudging it that it should be the way that I wanted it to be. And there's a lot more empathy for others because of the nature of it. And saying empathy also is, this is not a lifestyle for everyone, for many. And so don't project that it should be. It's not. It certainly hasn't affected my work greatly. So when I work with clients, I'm much more in the moment. I'm much more active listening to what is happening for you, not what do I think it should be. What is it? So yeah, I would say there's less chasing to be happy and being present. You can be happy right now. You don't need that new car or the new house or the new lawnmower. It's okay.
And you would describe yourself as happy?
Yes.
Me too.
Present
Me too.
tense.
I would say you are very joyful, Jerry, ever since I've known you, but I can say there's a new dimension to your joy, a remarkable peace and wisdom that shows up from your experience. I hope that you put this in a book and take this out to the world. I certainly plan to share it. So thank you so very much, Jerry.